Welcome back to the Broto Fantasy Football Podcast presented by BrotoFantasy.com. I'm your host, Tim PETROP, with my brothers, the only two twins that give you double that fantasy goodness, Michael and Jason PETROP. Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills, and no one gives you the summer heat wave fantasy team previews like the Broto Fantasy Podcast. I'm your host, Tim PETROP, here with my brother,
Michael Petropoulos,
and my other brother,
Jason Petropoulos,
here to preview the Buffalo Bills this season. I'll tell you what, this season, the Buffalo Bills have a little bit of a better offensive outlook than they've had for the previous other seasons.
Timmy, man, your love for Josh Allen, your love for bad quarterback play gets me so mad. Bills. The Fool's Gold Fantasy Wasteland.
All right, well, we'll talk about it. But
Mitch Trubisky MVP.
Aye. We'll talk about it, but let's first get into the offensive outlook. The head coach for the Bills is Sean McDermott. Great head coach. He's been doing a great job for the last 2 years. Their OC is Brian Daboll. Brian Daboll last year ran the ball 46% of the time. That is fourth in the NFL.
He ran the ball.
Josh Allen actually led the team in rushing yards, so it gives you a hint that Daboll is definitely willing to work on offense around the strengths of Josh Allen. So let's start where
he came from Alabama as well, which is used to having a mobile quarterback.
Mobile Alabama as well.
I was going to say mobile quarterback.
So let's start with the quarterback position. Josh Allen, last year, 53 rushing yards a game and 8 TDs and 11 starts. He finishes the quarterback 4 overall or better. Get this, 5 times last season. Patrick Mahomes only did that 6 times. After the bye week, he finished QB 4 or better 4 out of the last 6 weeks. Still has a cannon, is still giant, has better weapons this season. I think personally that Josh Allen has massive potential this season. Jason, tell me why I'm wrong.
You're absurd if you think Josh Allen's going to be a reliable fantasy quarterback.
I think that is
an NFL quarterback.
His rushing just gives you, but I'm not talking about an NFL quarterback. I'm talking about an NFL fantasy quarterback.
But it happens. You need to be a good NFL quarterback to stay on the field.
Who's going to take his job from him?
I don't know. Nathan Peterman. I won't be surprised if he gets benched though.
No, he's going
to teach him a lesson. There's probably going to be games where he gets benched at halftime, and he's going to start the next week. You need to be able to throw. He was last in adjusted completion percentage last year.
He was also a rookie.
He couldn't even throw a tight end per game that he was playing.
He's a rookie from
He was
Wyoming.
looking to run more than he was looking to throw.
Look, I'm with Jason here. You want to trust a quarterback who's been either top 5 or bottom 24. I mean, like outside the 24. He was either great or absolutely atrocious. Mostly absolutely atrocious.
That's true. I will say
the
things
volatility
that I said. Yes, he was a quarterback 4 or better 5 times last season, but he also was shitty.
The most volatile quarterback out there.
But
also,
he got better as the season progressed.
Also, though, he had 1 game with 20 completions all of last season. 20 completions is not that much for NFL QB. 5 games, over 30 pass attempts. Every single one of those 5 games, he threw 2 interceptions. When he gets to throw the ball, he makes mistakes. Yes, I know he was a rookie, but he has to make a vast improvement.
There's going to be way too many games where it's 200 passing yards, no touchdowns, and an interception.
Guys,
that's 6 points. You're going to need 100 yards on the ground and a rushing touchdown to make him a real quarterback.
To make him a great quarterback, yeah, but a floor of... He had 53 rushing yards last season, a game. That's 5 points right there, and 8 TDs and 11 starts, so say 4 points a game. You're starting with a 9-point floor right there. All he has to get is 11 points out of 20 points.
A 9-point floor, as if that's like wowzer.
For a quarterback, it is, because 11 points is really easy to get.
50 rushing yards.
That's 225 yards passing.
50 rushing yards is just 1 passing touchdown, basically. He's never going to throw.
Will he have...
So you're telling me that you wouldn't take Josh Allen more seriously if he had 16 extra throwing touchdowns? Because that's what he has. That's a significant number.
No, because then he'd have the.
But that would mean that he's a good quarterback,
and that would mean he doesn't get the rushing yards either. You're replacing the rushing yards with passing, so that means then he'd be that quarterback without rushing yards
plus 16 touchdowns.
Yeah,
that's an attractive quarterback.
That would have made him 26 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. Not super attractive.
I just think, look, when you have that type of cannon, and you're in the first year in a Buffalo Bills system with no weapons. And you can be the quarterback 4, 5 times? Sign me up for that potential.
Look, best ball, where he's going to start for you his crazy weeks.
He's great for best ball.
Go for Josh Allen. Redraft leagues, weekly lineups. You want to trust Josh Allen week in and week out? So be it. I'm not doing it.
Great DFS guy, too.
Because there's 4. I'm going to jump to the wide receivers because there's 4 Bills wide receivers. Zay Jones, Cole Beasley,
Zay Baby,
Robert Foster, and John Brown.
Yes.
Who are the 2 receivers you would think are going to be the most reliable?
I like Zay Jones and Robert Foster.
I mean, to be reliable,
But it's a complete toss-up.
I think Cole Beasley out of the slot is going to be a reliable guy for him.
Because most people, I mean, you'd think John Brown and Robert Foster are going to be the most relevant because they're the deep ball guys.
Robert Foster
like
hasn't
Zay
even,
Jones.
according to the beat writers, and this is early in the season, but he hasn't been on the field with the starters. It's been Zay Jones.
Well, I was going to say, Joe Bisaglia, the Bills beat reporter, said that his pecking order right now, projection of targets, is Beasley, Zay, Brown, Foster. And the whole argument is that Josh Allen could throw a deep ball. That's why I want to bring in the wide receivers into the fold, because if the argument that he can throw a deep ball and he can run, but then the projection is that he's going to be throwing at the slot guys the most, and he's not even capable of making throws to slot guys, where does that leave this offense?
It leaves him with a running quarterback that's going to rush for 10 touchdowns on the ground. That's what it's going to leave him at.
Josh Allen is not going to be a QB1. There's not going to be a wide receiver in the top 36 for the Bills.
Okay.
And there's not going to be a running back in the top 24 for the Bills.
I smell it.
There's not going to be a tight end in the top 12
Is that a new bet?
I smell a bet. I will bet you that Josh Allen finishes in the top 12 wide receivers, quarterbacks.
Fine. Yes.
Oh, can I get in there too?
Yes.
Thank you.
2 wins for your boy. 2 wins for your boy. Check out the podcast, of course, the regular podcast if you want to hear more bets.
If you guys didn't know, I won like 98% of the bets last year, so.
We're discounting that, though.
Totally.
Let's go to the wide receivers as a overall group now. John Brown, if he stays healthy, he can be a home run candidate. Obviously, Josh Allen has a cannon arm. John Brown is not the type of guy who's going to make your quarterback better. He needs to have a good quarterback to be better, and I think that was on display last year. In Joe Flacco's 5 best performances of the year, Brown finished as a high wide receiver 3 overall while never dipping under less than a wide receiver 3 on a per game basis. So he was all right and playable when Joe Flacco was having his best games. The only problem is when Joe Flacco disappeared, so did John Brown. So do you believe? So I really think the question is here: do you believe in John Brown? Is really a question of do you believe in Josh Allen? And I think I can answer that question for you. Is no.
Just real quick, Josh Allen was last in true throw value last year. Russell Wilson's targets worth 2 times more. So give me David Moore over all those guys. Now Michael can go.
I'm a Zay Jones guy.
Came on strong last year. Finishes the wide receiver 4 in 2 of the final 5 weeks.
Yeah, he started getting used more last season near the end of the season. And I, on a hunch, started him against the Jets in Week 10. He went 8 for 93 and a touchdown. By far, best season of the game. So he also has a soft spot in my heart for that.
Best season of the game.
Best game of the season. Oh, I just get flustered when I talk about him. But look, Zay Jones is basically free in leagues. I don't even think he's being drafted in 16-round, 20-round drafts. There's none of these guys. They've all flashed fantasy upside in the past, but nobody. If someone is telling you, "Yep, this is the guy," they're lying to you.
Yeah.
Because no one knows, not even the Buffalo Bills beat reporters at this moment. I just think Zay Jones has the pedigree. He has the draft capital from the first round, and like Jason said, he's already lining up with the ones in the early practices. And he came on at the end of last season, so he's someone if I had to choose out of all these receivers, Zay Jones is the one I would take the chance on.
What about Cole Beasley? For me, Cole Beasley is going to do something I like to call the waiver wire shuffle. He'll be picked up for a week when someone's on bye, and then dropped, and then he'll shuffle onto a team, and then shuffle on the waiver wire, and then shuffle onto a team, and then shuffle onto a waiver wire. He's going to do that waiver wire shuffle, I think.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Also, though, they're not going to pass enough for 2 receivers to be relevant, in my opinion.
Definitely no. And then Robert Foster, of course, he's look, he came on
Some
strong
people
last
love
year.
Foster as a breakout candidate.
It's ridiculous.
He did have.
It's the worst thing I've ever heard.
He had 100 yards.
Jason's low on the Bills.
He had 100 yards 3 times at the end of last season. 2 of them, he had 2 receptions and 4 receptions, respectively. So that does not spell recipe for 100 yards, usually. They were just big-time plays, which you can't really bet on either.
Let's go to the tight ends now that we're done with the wide receivers. The official bye-week tight end of all fantasy leagues, Charles Clay, has moved on to hotter pastures in Arizona. Tyler Kroft enters the fold. He signs a pretty giant deal considering his name is Tyler Kroft. Could have some value as a streamer eventually.
My opinion, we move on to running backs. Because Tyler Kroft is a journeyman tight end at this point who's never proven to be an offensive commodity, and Dawson Knox is a rookie tight end, which makes him unusable just off principle.
All right, let's go to running backs then. This is something that you're going to have to monitor throughout the entire preseason, because the person who's taking control of this job by week 3 is going to be the person who gets the job. Shady McCoy, his best days are obviously behind him. I think he's a cut candidate. I would not be surprised if he gets cut even before this episode airs. And then you got the rookie Devin Singletary. Devil Singletary. Maybe that'll be his new name.
Foosball's the devil.
Well, his dad was a scary guy. Very intriguing name. May not pay off until later in the year, though. Then you got T.J. Yeldon. I think T.J. Yeldon is probably the guy who you definitely know is going to be the pass-catching back, and his role is probably defined.
Actually, Mike Clay in his projections has T.J. Yeldon being cut.
Has T.J. Yeldon being cut?
Interesting.
He was a late signing.
He had, shout out to Michael Salfino of The Athletic for the stat, the second lowest stuff rate of any running back last season who had at least 100 carries.
Stuff
T.J.
rate.
Yeldon was
Explain
not.
what stuff rate is to the people.
Just getting stuffed at the line,
Right,
basically. Yeah.
Your stuff rate, when you talk, like, it sounded like baseball, like he had the best stuff. And then, of course, you got the ageless one, the wonder himself, Frank Gore.
Franklin Gore.
The only back
Grandpa
I'd
Gore.
consider touching is Devin Singletary.
I love me
As
some
a
Devin
late pick,
Singletary.
as someone who's going to come on and be the starter week 8.
I think Devin Singletary has a lot of Kerryon Johnson in him this year, where he's clearly the best of the backs on the roster.
He has absolutely no catching potential, though.
No, all right. So I don't mean he's like a similar player. I should make that clear. He's not a similar player to Kerryon Johnson. But the situation he finds himself in, the circumstances, is similar to what Kerryon Johnson found himself in. I wouldn't be surprised if Devin Singletary is a starter by week 6.
Yeah, if McCoy gets cut, Singletary's going to be a steal and a half.
Right
I drafted him like the 12th or 13th round in Scott Fishbowl. I liked the opportunity there, especially second half of the season. He was awesome at Florida Atlantic. He was a stud. That's why the Bills took him in the 3rd round, despite the fact that he can't catch passes at all, and he was taken in the 3rd round shows that the Bills really like the way he runs, and the Bills are a run-first team. So I like Devin Singletary at his ADP a lot.
Good genes, too. It always plays that. You know how I like my NFL sons.
I'm down with Singletary's a late-round pick. That's the only Bill I'll even come close to owning.
All right, the last segment for the Buffalo Bills, the one injury away segment. We already talked about this guy, so I'll start it off. Robert Foster is my one injury away. 6'2", 200 pounds out of Alabama. Played 4 years under Nick Saban, but was more of a gadget player for Nick Saban. Never started a full season, so he had to come and earn his way. Hey, look, Matt Castle was never a starting quarterback, but he made it work. Flash last year, John Brown is injury prone, so I think Robert Foster is the guy.
Say a couple injuries away, Isaiah McKenzie. He was coming on in the Tyreek Hill type fashion earlier in his career, where he was returning kicks and making big plays.
Michael?
So McKenzie could be a name tomorrow.
Devin Singletary. If McCoy or Gore is hurt, then bam.
You can find us on Twitter at Tim Petrop, at Mike Petrop, at Jason Petrop. Check us out.
Mike_Petrop.
Mike _ damn it. Gosh. Check us out on youtube.com/Broto Fantasy. Check us out patreon.com/Broto Fantasy. We're going to come back to you next time with the Miami Dolphins. Until then, peace.
Later.